afternoon. I call this meeting of the Moore County Board of Elections to order. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. We will proceed next order on our agenda. First, the roll call of members, and as you state your name, please indicate if you have any conflict of interest with the items that we're going to address this afternoon.
Holly Powell, no conflict.
Martin Carpenter, no conflict.
Bob Howell, no conflict.
Antoinette Kelly, no conflict.
Susan T. Adams, no conflict.
Thank you very much. There's a public comment section next. Do we have, does anyone register to make comments?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. The other matters for action, number one, the resolution for absentee meeting times. Tawana, do you have any comments about this particular item?
Yes, sir. So if the board is aware that on February 6th is the day that the board will attend the conference in Concord. From what I do understand, the conference is supposed to end at 11 o'clock, which that's what they're saying, but I don't have an agenda to validate that time. So what I was told was that is the only time that the absentee meeting is different from all of the other absentee meeting times, to allow us enough time to get back for us to prepare for that absentee meeting so that we can continue to do that absentee meeting time. That's why that absentee meeting time is scheduled for 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
So when I noticed a conflict, I reached out to the state to see what could be done. One of the options was to either try to do it as a Zoom meeting. I thought that would be very difficult since we're having to review IDs and signatures. I didn't think that would be feasible, or to do it as a Zoom meeting and to postpone it into the very next day, which I didn't know what everybody's schedule was going to be. And since it was a day that we were going to be meeting anyway, I thought it would just be easier just to push it back.
Mhm.
But if not, we're kind of early for the schedule anyway. If the board has a conflict, if you could kind of let me know what your schedule is like for that day, I may be able to make adjustments if possible. She did say that we could even push it back to 7 o'clock, if possible. I don't know if the board wants to be here that late, but if possible, we can even push it back further for if the board members have to, go home, make arrangements, put things in place. We do have the option to push it even further back if necessary. But
If we're done, everybody meeting by noon, 1 o'clock, we'll get back here in time for a 5 o'clock meeting, I would think.
I don't know what everybody's schedule is.
Yeah, I'm just,
Fine.
But that's why, because I have to make sure that it's noticed ahead of time. So, but like I said, we are actually ahead. Usually, I try to make sure that we get all this information out and get it done early, but we're like really super early. But so this gives me enough time to make sure that the board members can at least put things in place. Like I said, if you have things going on at the house, or if you need to check your schedule, this will give me enough time to change it before I have to post it. So we're actually quite early before I have to post it. So if the board members can at least look at that, like I said, if 5 o'clock works for everybody, then I can keep it that way. And if not, if I need to push it back to 7, I can push it back to 7. So we're flexible.
Right.
So I just wanted the board members to know that's why that time is different than everything else, because it conflicts with the conference in conflict.
Makes perfect sense. And any other questions for clarification?
I'm good for the day. Everybody else has already scheduled there.
About how long does it take to get there and back? Like 1 way?
Depending on which way.
Hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah, depending on which way you go. If you go the back route, it's about an hour and a half.
Used to go play hockey there. It was like 100 and 20 minutes to get to the rink. And I'd say an hour and a half, maybe to the hotel, an hour and a half back, depending on traffic, of course.
I don't have a conflict over 5 o'clock.
If we're done, I do it in 1 minute.
Tony?
Oh, okay,
All right, I think we're probably good to do this.
okay.
So the next question is, do we need a resolution to our, a motion
accept
resolution
what you-
to accept this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept this schedule for our absentee meetings.
I'll make that motion.
All right, second.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, make it so. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the resolution for absentee delegation of, or the delegation of preparatory steps for absentee ballots to the Board of Elections staff. Ms. Dixon, any comments about this one?
So, this is the same preparatory steps that you gave us for the municipal. So every time you always, not always, but you just let us make sure that we're able to prepare all the absentee for this board members. We'll do the spot checking like we always do, and just have all our bipartisan team members here, have the list ready for the board. The way that the ballots are looking like this year, ballots will be ready to go and to be received by the citizens January the 19th. So we will actually have 3 weeks before they actually are being reviewed by the board members, which is the first absentee meeting is the 30th. So we just want to make sure that we have everything situated for the board members by their first absentee meeting. The portal will actually be open for everyone January the 4th. So we are expecting a nice little turnout for the absentee meeting. So we just want to be prepared and have the board prepared for that nice little turnout. So we're just requesting that will be given by the board for us to make sure that everything is prepared for us and the board is prepared.
All right. Any questions for clarification?
The therefore still needs to be on the end.
I can't, I don't even know where
The therefore be it resolved, therefore needs an E on the end.
I Okay,
You corrected it on the other one, but not this.
okay.
Do you want a motion?
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to accept this one
With the correction.
with the stated corrections. Yeah.
I so move.
For a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item is a resolution for the continuance of out-of-precinct voting places. Tawana, any comments here?
I did make that change with the municipal. So each year, we have to, got from guidance from the state, because we do have some precincts that are like on the edge of other precincts. So we have to do this each year to send up to the state board to let them know of the out of precinct polling places. And so that's why we're doing this, because it wasn't being done like that before. So each year we have to notify the state that we are continuously using these precincts because we could not locate a precinct that's actually within that precinct. It's like right on the edge of the county line. So that's why we're doing it. Just
Right. Are these the same ones that we used? in
Yes,
this
sir.
one?
Mhm.
Thank you. So we've already approved these ones. So
Yes, sir.
thank you. Other questions? Do we have a motion to,
Motion.
sorry, there was some more talking in there.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
I so move that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
So approved unanimously. Next item is an appreciation letter for the student assistants who participated in the municipal elections. We received, my background, and I'll ask Tawana or Holly if they have anything else to add, but there was an original draft. Holly volunteered to revise it.
Oh, yes, because I was struggling.
No.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. So hold on. So we were very thankful this go round. So let me back up. So when I first came to be director here, the previous board wanted us to really get out into the community and let the Board of Elections faces be seen in the community. And so that was one of the goals, was to just get out into the community, reaching out to the students. And my first year, we weren't really successful. Then Nick started really getting out into the community with the students, and we had some students that worked with us this year, which we were really excited for. I'm sorry, Nick, how many students? We had five students. And so the school board was really excited. We had Marty helping us to push the envelope with that as well. And so the school board wanted to recognize those students that participated in with an appreciation, and which we were happy for, because a lot of times, a lot of our students are in the limelight for things that they do bad, but never in the limelight for things that they do good. And so, can you please get the certificate? Thank you. And so, Nick had made the appreciation certificates that we wanted to show the board. And we had wanted two of the board members that helped spearhead, because Marty was the first member when I had interviewed that was helping me with that. And then since Ms. Holly had done some things with the people in the voters, I thought it would be good for Ms. Holly to participate, but we didn't want to leave the other board members out with the appreciation. So then I attempted to write a letter. It was an attempt to write a letter. And so when Ms. Holly saw it, she kind of helped me draft up something better where all of the board members could show their appreciation with the students who also helped. And we're hoping that this will promote more students to come out to work, and them realizing that this will be really good when they're applying for like different scholarships and things of that nature. And so this is where the letter comes in. It will be on our letterhead. It will be presented with the students. They will also get the certificate that will be presented with the students. And the board members at the school board wanted to do it at one of their meetings with the students, their parents, 2 staff members, and 2 of the board members. And so they're really excited, and they're pushing to get more participation. And so I think we're off to a really good start.
That's terrific. Thank you, Mitch.
We talked about this as the previous board, and then Tawana and Nick took off on it. Nick did some great letters out there and did not get the response we wanted from all the schools. However, I have had some discussions with school board members and Sandhills trustees, and I think we'll see a little different approach this time. Plus, there's some private schools that didn't know about it and we didn't know about who would like to participate. They're high schools. So I think in word of mouth from these 5 students, I think it's a great experience for them. And I think we're going to find more students who want to help, which will help Tawana and the staff as we look for people to work at the polls on election day. So I've already told Nick I appreciate the work he did for that. And I think we'll see a little better response this time around from the schools.
Because one of our students actually started recruiting other students.
Yeah.
She recruited her sister to come, and she started working. And so we were really pleased with the work that the students did. And so we just wanted to include everybody in the process, yes.
Yeah, thank you, and congratulations and thanks to all of y'all, Tawana, Nick, and Marty for following through on this.
And Harley,
And
helping with the letter too.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It can stand out more edits, so I'm not. It was something I just added this morning, so if anyone wants to edit it, I won't feel upset about it.
Looks good.
Looks fine, looks great to me, thank you. Question I had, it's been a little while since I was a high school teacher. And I know a lot of cases there are community service requirements for students. In the course of discussions with the school board, with the schools, do you know if that, if these students will be recognized in that way or get credit in that sense? Clearly, I think they were rewarded just by participating in the experience. And like you said, we were recommending and drawing in other students, all that's great as far as citizenship goes. But another kind of pragmatic concerns that a lot of students have, and it can be a motivating factor for other students as we're promoting it for future elections. Do we know if this was promoted or recognized on student records in terms of community service hours?
That we don't know yet.
I don't know.
I guess we could probably have that discussion tonight with the presentation, which right now I think we're tentatively looking at the first meeting of the school board in January and Monday, the 8th.
Mhm.
Is what we're looking at right now. We can have that discussion, but I think that should be easily done to go into their records as well.
Because usually when they do work for us, it's an excusable absence. It is an excusable absence, so they are made aware. Hopefully it is credited towards that, but we have to do check, because it would be nice to get that as credible hours. When I was checking other states, they do use it as credible hours towards different, like a program towards, it'd be nice to use it as school credit, but I don't know how they do that, but yeah, it would be nice to do that. So as we get closer to the event, and if Ms. Holly probably wants to tweak it some more before we finalize the letter, we can, because I have to meet with the board anyways before that time to put it on the letterhead. We can do that before, and have all the board members sign an original copy for each.
Mhm.
We can have
Okay.
that done as well.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm perfectly willing for Bob to edit it as a former English teacher.
I read it very critically this morning, and it's perfect. You can take it.
You don't have to say that.
All right, thank you. Does this require a motion and a resolution?
No, sir, it was just, but like I said, if anyone wants to add to it, we can. I would like to have original signatures for each one of
Sure.
the students, because that does look nice to have it that way.
Great. And so you'll have that on letterhead for individual
Yes.
copies for us?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so at our next meeting, perhaps.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Terrific. All right. In that case, then, the final item on our agenda is the appointment for early voting precinct officials.
Yes, so with the new bill that is gonna be taking place, and we're still getting more guidance from the state with this, but I wanted to make the board members aware of it. the new bill, the Senate Bill 747, it requires that with the early voting site, so it's no longer one stop, which we're now trying to get that word
Right.
out of our mouth. It's early voting.
Mhm.
Early voting sites now have to have appointments of the workers done by the chairs. They actually recommend the early voting workers. Yeah. So, it didn't really say what the time frame was because a lot of counties have to start training because everyone knows, early voting starts February 15th. And we have to notice the meeting to the public of when we will make the appointment of our early voting workers that have been recommended by our party chairs. So basically, we kind of did what we did before with the precinct appointments. We sent out the list of what we did before, and we sent it to both chairs.
We're talking about the chief judge and 2 judges.
We just sent out well, no, it's not chief judges or it's
It's everybody.
it's just everybody.
Oh, okay.
So okay, I know what you're saying. So this is not like a chief judge and assistant judges. It's just workers that will work in the early voting side.
And the site manager, I guess,
It's just
whatever you call it.
It's just people that will work.
But
They're not,
Are there 3 who have to be designated to decide on whether the IDs are acceptable? You would have to have 3 people out of all the workers that are the 3, like on election day, that decide if the voter ID is acceptable.
the chairs don't decide that.
No, but I mean,
Oh, yeah,
you're going to.
yeah, we
appoint
do
3.
that part. So it's kind of weird because we already put our judges and assistant judges in that position, and then we designated who was their chief judge and assistant judges already. So when they kind of threw that in there, it kind of threw a lot of us already off because we already did that. It was just the fact that now the party chairs pick them, but we still have to place them in the precinct, and we still place them into what position they're going to work. It's kind of weird, I don't know.
So we're,
We really don't have that for the early voting sites. Because you're out of precinct, it's just their sites.
It's just the sites, yeah.
But still, is there a chief judge and 2 judges, or who's in charge?
So we still determine that. We still determine who's in charge, who will work curbside, who will be the ones that will do the determination for the ID. We still do that, but they get to pick who will work that site. Does that make sense?
Can you just
But
write
again-
who you mean by we?
When I say we, us here. The board.
Us. I didn't know if you meant us or the
Not the
staff.
staff.
So I'm sorry. Okay, so it's almost like when we did the precinct appointments for the election day. We made a recommendation, and then they made their recommendation, and then you said, okay, Ben Salem, this is who, and y'all looked at the list and you kind of fine-tuned the list.
There was 3 people in each precinct. The other poll workers, you selected.
We just do the assistant, yeah,
Yeah.
but you did the
We
main
did the main, and
character.
we're still gonna be doing main ones for the early voting.
But for early voting, for the early voting, it's just you're picking, so, okay, so for Carthage, if I say we would like Susan, Antoinette, and Bob to work at Carthage, you're gonna be like, do you agree? And you're gonna be like, yes or no. And then we're like, well, do you want Holly and Marty to work at WSP? Yes or no? Do you agree? Basically. That's basically what you're doing.
And the thing is, we got 2 shifts, so we've got to do 3 for the morning, 3 for the afternoon.
Well, this is the thing though, because when people internet and Holly can attest to this, you don't know who's working what yet. Because I have some people that just want to work weekends. I have some people who can only work mornings, and I have some people who can only work the afternoons. So we're just picking people who can just work right now. That's what you're attesting to, who can just work. We haven't gotten down to times yet.
So we're gonna have to choose each day. We're not gonna say, this person's gonna work every morning,
You're
and
just
this person's
picking
gonna
who
work
can
every
just,
afternoon.
yeah, you're just picking who can work first. So that's why I said the state hasn't like narrowed it down. That's why we just gave a recommendation of just names. Who can just work first? Because then what happens is they have to tell us what day you can work.
Who is they?
That
Whoever-
is the individual.
The individual
person
the
that-
individual
okay.
person is gonna tell us what day they can work, because we don't know that yet. We don't know what days they can work. Like I said, I have some people that can only work morning shift. I got some people that can only work afternoon shift. I have some people that can only work weekend shifts. I don't know yet. So when we overshoot, because I have some people that can only work 2 days, depending on what their schedule is like.
So we're looking basically still at 48 people a day, 12 in the morning at one location, 12 in the afternoon at one, 12 in the morning at the second location, and 12 in the afternoon. Isn't that how we did the last time? We did like 12 people you had? Thought that was the number. Is that too high? We had 2 shifts,
Was it 12?
early voting last time.
In between
You have
10 and
10,
12.
and you have 40 that
It's
you need
about
total
12.
each day.
Because you have your curbside people, you have your people that are checking IDs. You have to make sure that you have your 3 people that can verify if you have a challenge right there with the ID. So it is about 12.
I would say that, I feel like it was 12 was the number we had for each shift last time. That suddenly becomes a lot of people. Now luckily they're only working half a day, but then you're committing them for almost 14 to 15 days. And it becomes tough on you. If I can work 5 days, then I can't work the next 4, but then I can come back and
Well,
work.
no,
the next
just when early voting, you don't have that many people trying to work all them days like that. It's now that would be amazing, but that's not possible, because with early voting, it's a little bit more flexibility. So you may have somebody that can do 3 days here, 2 days there. So it's a lot more flexibility. And like I said, Tony and Ms. Holly can really attest to that. With the flexibility of early voting, it's just we never know, so we always shoot high. Because in February of the last time, we had that snowstorm that came in, so we had to shut it down early, and we had a 2-hour delay. And sometimes, depending on if the power goes out, sometimes you just can't get people in. So we have to have enough people where we can swap people around. So we always go with the high end of people, not necessarily meaning that we're going to use everybody, but we always have enough people to make sure we cover ourselves. I'd rather have too many people and then not enough and we be short. So that's what we do. We sent the list to both chairs, and it's mostly judges and assistant judges, so that we can have that balance where if a challenge takes place within the precinct, we'll have that balance that we need. We do have assistants in there. The thing is, they have to have the list back by December the 28th. But I have to meet back with the board again to have the official appointment meeting. And so I need a date, which will be after January, after New Year's.
Have you been out to the two county chairs for names for early voting yet?
Have I been active?
Yeah, did you go to the two county chairs?
She said.
Pardon?
I got
already
this.
sent-
I already
Oh, you
sent
said,
it.
okay, that's,
Yeah, I sent
I
the
didn't
list.
hear that.
I'm sorry. I sent the list to them, so they have the list. And
Okay,
basically, it's the list that we
They did
used
before,
for
yes.
from the precinct appointment.
Mhm.
And then any assistants that we felt like that have had some years under their belt.
In
So-
order to make that whole pool
Yes,
that you'll be able to draw
so
from.
to draw from.
Once again, okay,
And to balance it out as well. So they have, but the thing is now, we have to have a date of an appointment date from the board members to look at what they have either decided to do or not do. Because, like I said, we start training on the 8th. And so I don't know what y'all schedule is like, what day works for you.
So you've already told the chairs that they need to get back to you by December 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I did have a question because the resolution actually says, the county board may set separate dates for the appointment of chief judges and judges versus assistants. So it sounds to me like we're gonna have to identify which ones are chief, which ones are judges, and which ones are assistants.
On the list, it does say that.
Okay, I thought you were saying it was just a list of names.
Oh, no, ma'am, so on the list that they have, it tells you who's an assistant, who's a chief.
No, I mean for the early voting site.
What number are you looking at? I'm sorry.
That therefore, number one, second last sentence. To me, that reads like we are going to have to appoint who's gonna be a chief judge
Judge,
and a
yes,
judge, and who's gonna be an assistant.
like we did on election day.
But in our,
And it looks like that if that's what we have to do, then we'll have to be very specific. If people can't work each day in the morning, like somebody for 14 days, if I can't do that, then we will have to do each day almost individually for the judges, chief judge and the two judges.
I'm just wondering if we can appoint like a pool of judges,
And I like that idea.
a pool of
Yes.
chief
I
judges,
like
and
that
a
idea.
pool of assistants.
Yes, I
And
like that.
then the schedule can be worked out.
Yes,
I don't see why you couldn't.
You'd almost have to.
right.
Because there's no way for you to do it for each day. 'Cause you
We can
don't
do
know-
it each
The
day.
pool is the way to go. I
each
like
site,
that.
so, yeah.
I do not know.
and make sure the pool is large enough that we'll
I'm
get
about to
covered.
eat because I'm tired and I have to eat.
So for big picture, just for clarification, and this recent discussion has helped answer a lot of the questions that I had jotted out. The document that we have was a resolution that the state board passed, and we are receiving it basically as information about where we stand, and there's no action in terms of approving anything or voting on a motion for us regarding this right now.
Correct.
All right, so next is what you have just explained, that knowing this, knowing the dates, you have sent to the party chairs your list. They're gonna get that back to you by the 28th. At some point, this body needs to meet again early January, but before you begin training on the 8th, in order to approve that list. And I think we're still in the process of defining what that means. And it sounds like what it is, what we're hoping for is that we will have a pool of judges, a pool of assistant judges, chief judges, regular judges and assistants, that then the board, meaning Tawana and her staff, then can draw on and make assignments on essentially day by day, though you would develop this
Okay.
as clearly as much as possible in advance so people know what to expect and can let you know when they're available. So you put together at least a tentative schedule that might need to be tweaked as we go along, day to day and early voting for both sides. Does that sound like where we are now?
Oh, okay.
The problem is there's such a short period of time between December 28th and January 8th for you to notify people that they've been placed on the list.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So it would seem to me we need to meet as soon after the 28th as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, first week of January.
Only problem is, we're trying to do that. The state is still trying to give us more documentation, but we haven't gotten anything yet. So that's why, we're trying to get things in place, but that's kind of hard.
Do you have to start the training on the 8th?
Just because, we have more poll workers that we have to train before we start early voting. And so if not, we're going to be overlapping with everything and I don't have the space, so.
I remember the schedule that you put out for all of the training days before the municipal elections that we had in the fall. You know, there was several weeks with a couple of days and times in each of those weeks when training would be available. So that's something that you're presumably putting together again, beginning approximately.
Well, if you get it on the 28th, you're gonna need some time to process. Plus, my guess is it gonna be a 4-day weekend for county employees, starting on the 29th because of Christmas? Is it just a 3-day?
It's a 3-day weekend, so the county employees are actually off that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I only have those 2 days.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 25, 26, 27.
Yes, so the counties, and so we only have that Thursday and Friday, and then we have again that Monday off for New Year.
Right.
So then what happens is, I need my calendar.
The 3rd, 4th, or 5th of January looks like would be the time. That's giving you a couple of days to go through the list, put it together.
Well, what I was gonna do was, if need be, wait, hold on, I got my calendar. Because the only time that I would, per se, have off would be that Thursday and Friday, but because the state board is trying to get ballots done today, we're pushing to try to get ballots done, for ballot proofing. If I had to come back in, I would actually have to come back in on the 28th to make sure that I received their list to see what, if I needed to come back in, I would come back in. I told the party chair that I would do that, because I don't know what their holidays was like. I don't really want to take away nobody's holiday, but if I had to, I would. And so, yeah. I
If
only
you've already
have-
sent it to the chairs, I would think they could respond a little quicker than that.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not trying to be funny, because I had one of my chairmen come in file, so I was like, oh, where'd you go? So I had to keep up with him now. So, so I have from the 2nd to the 5th. So I'm overlapping, that's my only problem, and I can't control that. So we're gonna be doing ballot proofing, and I have to get my ballots proofed and ready so that military ballots can be done by the 19th. And we're already gonna be in training already as well too. Your first absentee meeting is supposed to be on the 30th, and then early voting is on the 15th. So like I say, I'm already overlapping. I have to have ballots ordered so that we can separate ballots to have them ready for the 2 site. And then I have to prep a brand new site that hasn't been prepped before. So that's why I'm saying it's a tight turnaround for me. So And the thing is, with the way that this appointment is, it does give us the option that I really don't have to wait for the chairs if they don't
Responded.
respond in a decent time. I don't have to wait for them because of that situation right there, because it's so tight. I'm glad that I'm not as big as another county like Wake County, because Wake County, they're probably gonna start precinct training like the day after New Year's, because how many people they have to start training because of the time constraint, so. We're about to start training at least over 200 some poll workers, so I have to make sure I have enough time.
So you're looking at the dates between this January 2nd and the 5th for us to come up and,
Yes, ma'am.
and we need to look at our calendars to see what we have available and if we're gonna be in town or out of town. January 2nd through the 5th, and choose a date to give to Tawana to come in and approve those judges and things. But I have a question. When we approve the chief judges and the other judges and assistant, didn't they have a consecutive year, or did they get redone?
It's two separate things.
things?
So, yes, ma'am. So now what's gonna happen is you're gonna do an appointment now for your regular judges for the 2-year appointment.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then you're gonna do an appointment now for every election appointment now. So when you do this primary
Yes.
appointment, you're gonna do another appointment for the general appointment again,
For early voting.
for early voting.
The people we appointed in the fall are gonna continue
On
for a
election day.
2-year period
Election.
on election.
On
day.
election.
We're only talking
For all
about
those
appointing
precincts.
for early voting.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing is, like, say if, because this was silly. Now, say if we were doing an early voting site and it was the office, you would have to do an appointment.
I'm sorry.
I know, that was silly to me. But if you were doing an appointment for a site that was like the Whispering Pine Center, you would have to make an appointment.
Yeah, that's what the resolution
That's
says.
the last sentence.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I don't understand why.
I don't get it.
Now I understand what the resolution means.
Because we were wondering, because we use the agriculture building as our in lieu of site, so we were like, do you have to make an appointment for that site? Because that's our in lieu of site. But we don't know yet because they haven't given us clarification.
It says,
So we're just like,
and that site is the county board office. It doesn't say in lieu of.
Yeah, and it's not the county board office for that.
Right.
but we usually in our in lieu of site, but it doesn't, but so that's the thing. Most of us don't use our county, we use it in lieu of site, so.
I think we have the flexibility probably for that. And let's face it, the people you've been using, you're not gonna get maybe 1 or 2 differences from the county chairs. So you can probably put together your suggested list that's gonna be 90 to 95% accurate.
Yep.
And with 2 sites, one site will have a Democrat chief judge in the morning, the other side have a Republican. We may switch in the afternoon, then you have a Republican and a Democrat splitting up your other 2 judges. So I don't see this being, that big of a deal. I think most of those names are already gonna be there. Then it's a matter of you working with them even in advance. We think you may be the chief judge. What day are you available? So you can maybe do some of that stuff in advance, that if you're a chief judge, or if you're a judge, what days can you work instead of you having to worry about it after the 28th of January when the chairs are giving you the information. I don't know, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of input from them.
Well, I just need y'all to pick date, that's right.
No, think about
Just
it,
love
right.
to save it for you.
Is there a date you prefer, Tamara?
I don't care what date.
Doesn't it?
It really is up to y'all because I don't, like I said, I'm gonna be here. I don't know y'all schedule really.
First, I'll go ahead and say that all of those days are equally convenient for me.
Yeah.
So anybody else who has a date that they prefer
The
or
only-
can't work, let us
The
know.
only thing I have is, I have something else at 10 o'clock on the 4th. But if it's an afternoon meeting, I can do it any of those days.
Oh, actually, okay.
So Ms. Hall said afternoon will work better.
Afternoon, what day?
Any day, for me.
I'll be here, just show me.
What time in the afternoon? Like 2?
I was gonna say, it kind of looks like two.
Tuesday,
because then
Tuesday.
it would be
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And I would say Tuesday, since we've done other Tuesdays, I don't know if that's gonna affect people that.
That's right
If it's
after
the
New
day
Year's.
after New Year's, that's why.
May not be ready yet.
Read my mind,
I'm
that's
ready
pretty
yet
much
on
sense.
that Tuesday.
How about Thursday? No, you can't do Thursday.
I can
She
do
can in the
Thursday in the
afternoon.
afternoon.
Okay, Thursday the 4th at 2 o'clock?
Okay.
Good, yes, ma'am.
I'll come in, but don't expect.
You know what?
Maybe get a cost of living, yeah, in the new year, for sure.
Okay, so it's January 4th,
Mhm.
2024 already at 2 o'clock. Jeez,
Can you believe that?
Time is flying. Okay.
That's it.
All right.
What you need?
I had something, but I had just got that information yesterday.
About,
Sometimes at 6 o'clock, because they do meetings all day long. They're internal meetings and then like 5 or 6 at night.
I think it's 5:30 is the regular business meeting.
Amendment to the agenda for new business.
Can I ask for
One,
an
yes, please.
amendment to the agenda to add new business, please?
Oh, yes, that's a great idea. So are there objections to adding, on today's agenda? Adding a line for new business on today's agenda? No objections there? Okay. New business, right before adjournment. Ms. Dixon?
Okay,
Do we want to do that on all our agendas, I wonder?
I thought we had agreed that that's.
I think we had, it just didn't get printed on this one.
well, because when I have to do the, well, I'll explain it. Okay, so I went out to the center out in Southern Pine. And I had the opportunity to speak to Ms. Bowman
Mhm.
out there. And so I just needed to bring some things before the board and get input from the board. Marty, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry. So, I had a meeting with Ms. Bowman at with the site that we're looking at, and there were some things that she had brought before my attention that was not brought before my attention before. And so one of the things that was brought before my attention was about signage. It is a private facility, and they have rules about signage that they have. And so they wanted to regulate signs out there, which they do have the right to do. And so they were asking about campaign signs, about how can campaign signs be placed out there. And so she was asking me about what other facilities like that are privately owned do. And basically I told her it's up to her how they do it, because she wanted to present this to their board member as far as how they would do the sign. I said, you could either have it where the day before early voting starts, candidates could put the signs up. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we send a newsletter out to the candidates concerning what our expectations are of them when it comes to our early voting sites. Excuse me. And so this is why I'm explaining this to the board, because we have to have that letter ready by a certain time so that we can get it to our candidates. And so the suggestion could be, signs can go up the day before early voting, and they would have to be come down 5 o'clock after early voting ends. Where the location of the signs could be placed, which would be on the very side, and it could be, we could do a map where the gym is, there's that whole side stretch right there. Depending on how many candidates, you could either do a minimum of 2, so it's kind of fair to everybody with the signage. And she was asking me to either put that type of guidelines in writing. I told her I would need to speak to the board to see if that was a fair assessment of signage being placed out there. Because I do understand that they do want to keep it neat, kind of in line with how they already do with signs when it comes to people using their facility for like festivals and things like that. They want to kind of keep it in line with what their guidelines are already. And I said, okay, I would have to speak to my board. Another thing, when it comes to renting the facility, because they've never used it as an early voting site, they weren't aware about the tent, which they're fine with the tent. It's just making sure that we regulate, they just wanted to make sure that somebody would monitor the outside location, which I told them that somebody would. There is a location out there where when you come out, there is a pine tree location circle. Instead of how we do in Carthage, where we kind of box them in, we will give them the free range of that one location, which is kind of bigger than across the street. But making sure that in the letter, they will understand that they will actually have that full range of the circle. People will have to know that they do not park on the grass, because that's a fine for us. So just making sure that people are aware of what the rules and regulations are there. The thing that kind of was thrown off at me was the fact that at first there was no charge, and then there became a charge. Yeah. So, and I understood. So she gave me what their prices were, and the prices that she did say to me wasn't what they were going to charge us, but they wanted a charge that was reasonable for the board and reasonable for their board to agree with. So technically, if it's a nonprofit organization, they charge $100 for the first 3 hours, and then it's $25 for each additional hour. Now, that's not what she's charging me, because we did the math. That's not what she's charging me. She's not charging me that, because I told her that is fair, because it is like 15, 17 days. She said, if you could just probably put some towards electric bill. They have boiler heaters, which I have not heard of that in a long time. That's expensive. Even though our maintenance people were going to put something in the gym to help with the heat anyway. We weren't depending on using the boiler heaters. But if they do use the boiler heaters, I can only imagine what that electric bill would be. It's going to be something else. So I was trying to work out what the rental or what the fee could be, because I've never really paid for an early voting site before. I didn't want to be cheap, but I didn't want to be over the top as well. So I was looking at, what would be a reasonable price, because that's twice a year, every other year, of what that cost would be. And I'm not quite sure what that.
Well, I don't either. At this rate, which you multiply all of the hours and all the days, it's a lot. I don't know if and I don't have a suggestion for what would be reasonable. people who have been in that business more than I have might have some suggestions.
Now,
The only other thing that I would maybe, if you haven't done this, if you brought this up, I'm sure it was a diplomatic way. My inclination, knowing some of the folks who, including Ms. Bowman, who are in charge of and work at the center now, is to remind them, I think it kind of works both ways. It is beneficial for the board and for the voters of Moore County to have that site as a second early voting site. I think it's also beneficial for the West Southern Pines Center to be able to play that role in the community. So I think they're getting something out of this experience in addition to whatever money we pay them. And reasonably, especially, if they crank up those boiler heaters to heat that gym in those months, that can be a lot. So
and I was gonna reach out to, because I know like Mecklenburg County, because they don't really have a lot of county buildings in Mecklenburg because of where they're located, they do have to pay for early voting sites. I was gonna reach out to Mike to see what Mecklenburg, they have money though, and see what was reasonable. I have an idea of what is reasonable, but I don't wanna offend either.
Why did we go from it wasn't going to cost anything to, oh, by the way, it's going to
I
cost
have
you?
no idea. Because when we,
That bothers me.
I don't know, because when we first went, that topic didn't come up, and then all of a sudden the topic came up, and I was like, oh. So I'm not quite sure what.
they might have first been thinking what I said, that it's a benefit, it's a good thing for them to be able to host early voting.
Mhm.
And then they started thinking about, I'm just guessing, about the consequences, and there is going to be a certain amount of wear and tear and expenses to keep the buildings open that they will incur. So
Did we pay in Aberdeen? Did we pay in Pinehurst at their facility when we did early voting there? Okay. This is more of a private entity, I understand that. And having had a boiler heat at a house many years ago that cost me an arm and a leg until I got a new one, that can be expense, and they probably shouldn't have to bear that expense. Now, the other thing is, do we have the budget for it, or do we need to go to the commissioners to get the budget? If we say it's gonna cost us $15,000 to run I'm giving you a number. If it's gonna cost $15,000 to pay for utilities and all at this site, then we probably need to go to the commissioners to get the money. So we're gonna probably need some kind of an estimate, because even if we're gonna do space heaters, they're gonna be based on electricity, which means we're gonna be using the electricity even if we're not using the boilers. Otherwise, it could be cold, and people are gonna be unhappy campers voting in the cold. So I do understand, instead of them footing the bill, but I think it needs to be like, we can pay the expense, but in terms of a rental fee, I'm with you. This is going into West Southern Pines, which is kind of what they wanted. We're having it there, so it's a benefit to them. It gives some advertisement for their facility as well for other uses. So to me, the compromise is we can pay the cost of utilities if needed, but I'm not sure we should be renting if we're not renting anywhere else.
Well, it's
Yeah, I
not
don't
the
think
rental,
it
it's
should
the
be
expense.
an open-ended thing that we'll pay half of it. I think the lady, whomever, the board over there needs to say, this is how much we want, and we have a solid figure. I am not agreeing, I do not think it's wise to
Oh, no.
just say,
It needs to be a solid figure, I agree.
Right.
if it's $7,000 to run those boilers, we'll see, it might be 12,000. No, this is how much that we are expecting from you.
Well, she actually left it up to us.
I-
And that's why I was like, what do you mean when you say that? Like, if I give a cost, is this what you're gonna be agreeable to? So
Well-
that's why I was like, because I'm like, don't give it to me.
Did y'all do the math on 100, on the figures that you gave us?
Oh, I know the math, 'cause I know it. So when
Can you
we,
tell us what that number would be?
it was 43,850.
All right.
Oh, Lord.
No, for the rental, for a nonprofit, so like I said, it's $100 for the first 3 hours, $25 for each additional.
Mhm.
So,
That's what it comes out to. But again, they're not saying,
but they're not
give us
saying.
this much money or we're not gonna let you.
Yeah,
do
they're
it.
not saying for
Right,
that.
yeah.
So when I looked at it, I was like, okay, so if I give you, hey, which is half, what, is like 1,000 for March and then 1,000 for November, is that what you're accepting from me? But I haven't told her that, that's what I'm talking about. But she didn't say that, that's why I was wondering what's a decent, like, I don't wanna be cheap. 'Cause I
Do
can't.
we have any engineers within the county that could go over and look at the facility and kind of say, okay, and look at their boiler and say, well, based on the size here, this is gonna probably use this much gas to run these boilers. And if we're just doing space heaters, we have 5 space heaters, they use this many watts, and it's gonna take this much electricity. We can have a guesstimate that it's gonna take $5,000 of utilities for the 14 or 15 days we're there. I still have problems paying rent
We're
at this
not
point in
paying
time.
rent. That's,
Huh?
she just said the electric, that's all she
Well,
was asking, like, putting money toward the
For the
electric, that was it.
Or can we have an electrician go and give us an estimate? I'd like to have an estimate on the utilities or gas or whatever, if we're gonna use the boilers. So we can say, he can say, I think it's gonna cost about $5,000 to heat this for 14 days, if it's this cold. If it's not, then it won't be that much. Or else we ballpark it ourselves and we win, lose, or draw.
So as I'm agreeing with you, Marty, are you saying, so if we tell her we can give you $2,000, that's it? Then she's okay with it?
Basically. She's asking what I can give.
But the problem for me is similar to some of us, it's open-ended. She needs to have, I want that statement to be closed because if.
But that's what she's
you're gonna
saying, she was
bargain-
saying, if I give her a figure, she'll take it back to the board, and the board will decide if that is the price that we will set in stone from here on out. You get it?
She doesn't want to give us a number, she wants us to give her a number.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
it's just a bid. She wants us to give her a number. She takes it back to her board,
Yes.
and then they decide yes or no. They say no, then we're back to the same.
No, then I'm gonna say her board needs to give me a number.
Yeah. Why can't they just give us a number?
Yeah, why can't?
I don't know.
They're the ones who
Yeah, but
said all of a
that's what
sudden
they
they
asked us
want
for, so
something, us to pay
So then my
something.
guess, the other thing is, are they utilizing this facility in the wintertime?
Uh-huh.
Have they been already having to pay gas bills and electric bills for people that use it? If so, then there ought to be some usage data to say somebody came in and used this thing for 2 days and we had to spend $500 on electricity to heat it, and it was another $400 for gas for the 2 days. If they have those kind of numbers, then we can project from that for a 14-day period. So they ought to have some real usage data, unless we're the first ones to use this facility.
But, okay, but if somebody's coming in to use it, are they using it for 13 hours, like we are using it? No. That's the difference.
Coming in for basketball practice before the game or something like
So
that.
nobody's using it for the 13
But they're
hours.
probably still maintaining a temperature in there.
Oh, no, they're not. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Well, then if you've got somebody coming in, you're gonna be maintaining you don't want to go all the way start down to scratch again. That becomes kind of cost prohibitive to.
To,
Bring it all the way back up, yeah.
because usually if you go in there, it is cold. Like, they'll turn it on, warm it up, and then as soon as they're finished, they'll shut everything back down. So the difference is because of the time frame. Because usually the facility is usually just open from 9. They lease it from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Well, we're in there. We're gonna be in there from 7:30 in the morning we close at 7:30. But we're not getting out of it at 7:30.
But if they're already doing a 12-hour, you can come up with a pretty good number. If they're already operating it 12 hours a day.
I mean, I can call her and see if her board can see what is a reasonable cost and bring it back. to
Yeah,
me.
I guess I think based on their usage data from other people who've used it for a day. If it's open from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, then that tells me they have to maintain some kind of reasonable temperature for people to come in and use. If those are the hours every day.
But nobody uses it for that. Nobody uses it for that time frame. We're going to be the only ones using it for that long of a period of time.
Yeah, I bet when most nonprofits see that, sign a contract for what you said, $100 for the first 3 hours. It's probably on a day. They've got an event that they're gonna have, like you said, arts festival, like we know that they've done there in the past. which lasts for several hours one day, and they can manage it. And again, the benefit, it's sort of like a volume discount. We are not coming in just for a day or two, but for the whole time, so they've got that sort of guaranteed income, whatever the figure is, which I think also should be taken into consideration for what is a reasonable rate.
Or does their hourly fee mean all of that, a portion of that money goes toward utilities? So if you're paying $25 an hour or whatever it is, money's out of that's going toward utilities. Utilities are not extra. Here's your $25 rental fee and by the way, fee utilities. If they want to do the hourly fee, then that includes the utilities.
Sure, I imagine that's what it would be.
Yeah, that's it. And if so, then maybe we project with the numbers that she's given you for the 14 days to see how much that is, and then kind of guesstimate, how much would the utilities be in that time frame. And it's kind of a wash, then whatever that number comes up to.
You used to be able to call Progress Energy or Duke Energy and ask what is the average monthly bill at this site? Because I used to do it for houses that are for sale.
And they should have historical data when it was actually operating as a school. There ought to be historical data now, then you put cost of living into it, but we ought to be able to get something, like you're saying, that data, Susan, from somewhere, historical data, and then factor in inflation and have a ballpark number.
Did you already have a figure in your mind what you were going to offer? What,
800.
800? What is total?
800 to 1,000.
Per
800 a day?
No,
No,
For the whole-
For the
the whole
total.
early
time,
voting site.
800 to 1,000 for the
for
whole
each
site.
for the spring,
Mhm.
and then some, and
Utilities would be
800.
higher than that.
Well, it's not bad to see. That sounds good. That's better than,
It's 43.
I know. It's not bad to see.
My guess, the
Was it-
utilities would be higher than $800 for those 14 days, just be my guess.
Well, it depends, 'cause you know North Carolina.
Yeah, it
Some
depends
days
on
the
the weather,
weather
I
is
know.
nice. Because if I can, like I said, I had already talked to my property manager director. I was told that there was no heat in that building. So there was something that the school system used that you could, because in the back of the building, I can generator gas, you could blow in heat. So I was already prepared. I didn't get my own gas, we got it across the street. And you could blow in heat into the building that wouldn't have cost me anything. So I was already prepared for that, because that's what I was told. So the boiler was kind of new, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was already prepared to still bring the generator from the back, because it's screened off, nobody could take it. You just open up the back door, and you just start it, and it would blow in heat, and it will still keep them warm. So that's what I was gonna still do.
Right.
Because when we first went there, they was talking about there was no heat, so I don't know if that heat's gonna work.
Do we have a county engineer that can go look at the place and tell us?
I don't know about a county engineer, but I was gonna.
Probably, somebody
I was gonna
probably
bring
going
my
to say, okay,
property manager to.
we want to have this at, 60, maybe 60, I don't know, 65 degrees or whatever. Because once people are in there, it'll warm up anyway based on body
Yeah,
warm.
because I can.
Like
get-
say, what do you think it's gonna cost? If we're not gonna use the gas, if we're gonna supply 6 space heaters or whatever to heat this place, what do you think it's gonna cost to do that?
But like I said, the Moore County school system has something for gyms, specifically for the
Right.
gym system. It's big that you can actually pump the heat in and it will heat that gym just like that.
Okay,
So did you tell her you could provide that?
I did.
And she said, yes,
She was like,
sir.
well, that's when she was talking about the boilers, and I was like, well, what happens if it goes down? Because
Well, just tell her we don't want the boilers.
Yeah.
Because I told her, I said, well, you knew, because my dad did boilers in Navy. I said, who do you have to fix them? Because
Because of the raised
when it
hour.
goes down, that's a part she said there's only one company that fixes that boiler. And I was like, I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to, not say pay for it, but I don't want to go through that.
It seems to me if we're saying we're gonna provide the heat, they're not gonna have a utility expense other than lights.
Yeah, and that's what she was talking about was the lights.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
pay some minimal.
That's why I said 800.
Yeah, we-
And we bring the heat.
Yeah, I can do the heat.
okay.
Let's try that. And I think that,
Do some more research, I guess, and
Oh,
see,
I will.
yeah.
So then,
Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
I have one quick question for Juwan. Is there anything that describes what color the parties can use on their sample ballots?
You just can't use yellow.
Can't use yellow,
You can't
because
use
that's what your sample, our sample ballots are.
no form of yellow, no color close to the shade of yellow.
Because somebody actually told me they thought that one of the parties was using something that looked very, very similar in color to the board's.
They did at one time, and so we asked them not to use any shade of yellow.
Okay, thank you.
And you're supposed to be putting on there that who's
Yeah.
doing that sample ballot.
Yes, and we're gonna send a letter out, to everyone, through our sunshine list, because that was an issue, that to make sure they have the legend, we're gonna send out the legend, what it's supposed to say, no shade of yellow. So I'm gonna send all that information out as we get closer.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Susan's got a hot date, I can tell.
She's ready to get out. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Love to see how this facility works out.
Have a good one. Y'all too.
I don't know.